Triathlons have become part of a booming movement towards total physical fitness. Two international triathlons stand out. There's the Ironman in Hawaii and the Nice, France International, the annual race often regarded as the world championship of this sport, which combines swimming, cycling, and running. It is quite simply the ultimate physical challenge in a setting that is breathtakingly unique.
It's a beautiful morning on the French Riviera for the Nice International Triathlon, regarded as one of the top 3 in the world. More than 700 athletes from 23 nations, among them 34 women, facing a course longer and tougher than ever before. The race begins with a 4-kilometer swim, a full kilometer longer than previously in the Mediterranean Sea. From the Bay of Angels to the hills of the Maritime Alps for the 120-kilometer bike ride over the toughest course in the world. It's a time when the locals keep the kids off the road. The race ends with a run along the seafront past Nice Airport, a 32-kilometer round trip to end a very hard day. As always, the top triathletes are in town. The number 1 is Scott Tinley from the U.S., 4 times in the top 3, never the winner. With 90 minutes still to go to the start, Tinley makes sure he's ready. Scott Molina, another American, has twice finished second and once third. Victory also eludes him. He wins mostly in America, so how different is a European event?
It's much different. They allow a lot more vehicles on the course in Europe. They allow a lot more bicycle traffic, mopeds. There's a lot more traffic in general. The roads are a lot more difficult.
Leading the European Challenge is Holland's Rob Barel, who's won 17 times already this year and is one of the few who can be favored among the Americans. This race, by the way, has never been won by a European. France has a favorite too, in Yves Cordier, a resident here in Nice. Last year, he was a spectator after breaking his collarbone. Rumors are he's back in shape. Among the women, the strong favorite is New Zealand's Erin Baker. She won in 1985, but was disqualified in 1986 after she received unofficial help along the route from her sister. Because of this, she gave Nice a miss last year.
You can't look back at bad business decisions, and that, perhaps was one for me or whatever else, but, I think this is a great race. It's probably the course that I like the most in the world. So, as I said, it's the best thing for me to be here, and I just look forward to race day.
Baker's closest challenge should be her old rival, Colleen Cannon from the U.S. The two are good friends and train together, but Cannon aims to repeat her win 4 years ago. And here's the girl who's tipped her hat to the European Challenge against America and New Zealand. She's Sarah Coop from Sussex in England. Sarah was second in 1986 and has been a professional now for 3 years. With so many competitors, getting them ready can be a problem. But here in Nice, there are 2,000 volunteers to make sure everyone is ready on time. And in a sport where no help is allowed and food and drink can only be taken from the official aid stations, the preparations before the race are both meticulous and absolutely vital. With the water at its warmest for years, the race is ready to start as 9 o'clock approaches. Safety precautions are evident. For the serious competitors, the prize list of $75,000 is their target, with the best man winning $12,000 and the best woman $11,000. There's even a Veterans Award as well. But for all of the entries, the real target is simply to finish. That in itself, a great achievement in the eyes of most who take part. This began as an all-American sport. Now everyone, it seems, enjoys it. The voice of René Tremoni says just 2 minutes to go to the start of the 1988 Nice International Triathlon. We'll be back with more on Sports Weekend in just a moment.
These little bunnies have been drumming non-stop for an amazing 18 hours. So if you've always thought the Duracell batteries are the only ones that last, maybe you should think again. Energizer. Absolutely nothing lasts longer. We don't want to knock the competition. No. This friendly tap on the shoulder is just our way of saying, come on, Duracell, what makes you think you're the only one that lasts? Yeah. You know as well as we do, nothing lasts longer than Energizer.
Among the lavish appointments of our refurbished international executive class are new seats that are designed to give you a luxurious amount of space. In fact, there's so much room for your legs and feet. We only hope the comforts of our new executive class won't go to your head.
To an already fabulous lineup, John Deere introduces the outrageously inexpensive STX lawn tractors. Inexpensive, but not cheap. Smooth, quiet. They shift on the go, not the usual stop and go. And a turning radius that's the tightest in its class. Why get saddled with the cheap seats when you can move up to a new STX? Not cheap, just outrageously inexpensive.
It's Deere season at your local John Deere dealer. Come in for big savings.
For a limited time, the Nissan Sentra comes with a 4-speaker stereo cassette system and air conditioning at no extra charge. Save $1,600 in options now on a Nissan Sentra. For $11,789, you can bulk up a hard-body king cab with all these options, and we'll throw in this attractive carrying case for nothing. For $900 worth of options at no extra cost, see your nearest Nissan dealer now.
If you weren't watching Sports Weekend, here's what you missed.
Yes! Oh, yes! Unbelievable! Unbelievable! Rob Boyd with a sensational run. Brings them to their feet all over British Columbia.
Two triples right at the end of the program. I mean, I don't know how anyone is going to beat this. Everybody is standing on their feet here.
Everybody is up for Canada's Kurt Browning. And there the Canadian with the flags waving.
He's got a good-looking shot. They are brushing it hard. She has to be full 8 foot. They are working hard on it. He's still got a lot of rotation, but she's got it. Maybe too much. Maybe too much. She has got a good one. She's going to hit that rock right on the nose. Don't jump, girls. That's fairly.
So Canada will score 2 on end number 10. And Canada celebrates a world championship.
No! He's missed it! Unbelievable!
And his Canadian rink have won the world championship.
This guy absolutely hummed that rock down there, and he just touched the corner. You talk about the game of curling being very cruel to Pat Ryan last year. It has been very beneficial to him this year.
Here it is, and there it is, and Ian Miller has done it. Ian Miller and Big Ben, just superb. They have won their second consecutive World Cup. What a marvelous performance by this great combination, Ian Miller and Big Ben.
Sports Weekend, where champions come to life all season long.
Well, a look at some of the champions of 1989 is seen here in Sports Weekend. You know, 2 weeks from today, we'll be celebrating the 10th anniversary of Sports Weekend with some of the heroes and the memories who made sports history during the past 10 years. Steve Armitage from CBC Vancouver, of course, has seen a number of those events. Today, he's very busy as the voice of the triathlon, and right now he is joined by Steve King, a resident of Penticton, British Columbia, and CBC's triathlon expert.
Welcome back to the Bay of Angels. The French resort of Nice is getting ready to receive more than 700 athletes in the 7th Nice International Triathlon. Steve, this is the one point in the race that I think the triathletes fear more than any other, the mass start in swimming.
Indeed it is, because they have the possibility of getting kicked in the face or the chest, and that's the last thing they need to happen. Things will start to sort themselves out after about 200 to 300 meters. But what they would have been sensible in doing was self-seeding, and indeed that's what they do, because these guys realize the last thing they need is any injuries early on. But this particular bay, I want to mention, is notorious for its undercurrents and stinging jellyfish. So as you can see, as they went in, most of them were wearing wetsuits, not only because it's been proven that they can make the swimmers go faster, but also so that they don't end up getting stung by a jellyfish.
It's also important for the contenders to get out in front as quickly as possible, and that means speed at the start of the race.
Yes, indeed. The major contenders in the swim portion obviously want to get to that buoy right up front. You can see there's a couple of them spearheading groups. Others are drafting off them. That is to cut down on the water resistance, but they'll be zooming in, trying to go for that buoy and be the first ones there. And the man in our picture now is Yves Cordier, the French champion, the man the French want to see win this one. He's been up there right up front a couple of times, but he's never won it. He seems to lose out when it comes down to the run portion.
And he's one of the better swimmers.
He certainly is. I would expect him certainly to be in the first 2 or 3 coming out of the water. Just on the far side of him, though, a man who took off on the other side of the mass start is Englishman Glenn Cook. He was a man we saw in Canada in August when he placed 4th in the Reebok World Championships.
Scott Tinley, not one of the better swimmers.
Not one of the better swimmers, but it's a discipline he's certainly worked on in the last few years. I can expect Scott to come out maybe 2 to 3 minutes behind the leader.
What about Molina as a swimmer?
Well, Molina as a swimmer is a very good swimmer, but for the past 18 months, his performances have suffered. Karen Smyers from the US, one of New England's greatest triathletes, and she placed 7th last year in this race, so we can expect her out there. I would expect to see her maybe in the top 4 or 5 out of the swim. Jan Wanklin, I think she's the dominant force when it comes to swimming from Australia. I think she'll be #1 out of the water.
Have you ever met an Australian who wasn't a strong swimmer?
Exactly. That's surfers paradise. That's where they practice.
What a beautiful setting for this race, Nice, France. Nice, by the way, getting its name from the Greeks. It means victory. Now, as they approach the 800-meter buoy, we can see Bernard of France is leading, followed by Cordier of France. So the Frenchman on top in the early stages of this triathlon.
Yes, and of course, the thousands of spectators are lining the Promenade des Anglais would love to see Laurent Bernard coming out in front in the swim, or Yves Cordier. It's wide open. Colleen Cannon on our screen right now. Colleen Cannon can expect to be right up there too. She's placed highly in this event before. It's good to see her back in the race, and she'll be gunning for a win. We saw her in Vancouver for the VIT triathlon, so she's well known to Canadian spectators.
What about the water temperature? Would this be a factor for the U.S. Swimmers?
I don't think it's going to affect them. Many of them are from California. I understand the temperature is around 21 degrees centigrade, so that's beautiful. And apart from the wetsuits, of course, this is salt water they're swimming in, so the buoyancy is A1. This will certainly help their times. It's been listed as a 4-kilometer course. It'll be interesting to see what they come out of the water in.
I would think that pacing would be very important. You can't go out too quickly simply because you've got to have enough left in reserve for that grueling bike and the run.
Up to a point, but one of the things you'll notice about many of the swimmers, they really don't use their legs too much. It's a lot of arm strength, whereas when they move into transition and get onto the bikes, then it comes down to leg strength.
Jan Wanklin from Australia is the leader amongst the women right now, and she's right up there with the men. She could really swim.
She certainly can. I would expect her to be on a real 4-kilometer course, maybe around 51, 52 minutes.
Now, what would you expect from the men in terms of a time?
Well, you've got to remember, for the Ironman, for instance, 3.8 kilometers, the fastest time there has been around 47:30.
Now, we should point out that this is not a true Ironman competition.
No, indeed it isn't. The distances are peculiar just to the Nice Triathlon. But wait till you see that cycling course, you'll understand how grueling this event really becomes. Total time probably for the leaders today will be 6 hours, but every single second counts. This really could come down to the wire today.
There you see the leading men as they approach another of the buoys. They will make a swim now that goes parallel to the beautiful beach area here at Nice. And again, it is Cordier and Bernard, the leaders among the men, both from France.
Also in there is Rob Barel. He's the man that the Dutch want to see win this one. Phenomenal athlete. He is a 5-time European short course champion. In fact, just a couple of weeks ago, he won his 5th title, but was disqualified as a race because the European Triathlon Union decided to withdraw the sanctions. So that was misfortune, but I'm sure he'd like to vindicate that performance and come back for a win today.
What a beautiful setting for a triathlon. Nice, France. And there you see the leaders once again. Cordier, Bernard.
And with them in 4th place, that is Glenn Cook from Great Britain.
Jan Wankling from Australia, the leading woman.
Notice her looking up, getting her sighting, wants to make sure she's heading directly for that transition area. The last thing you want to do is go off course at this stage. We saw that once or twice in Canada last year.
Now they're rounding the final buoy in the swimming portion of this Nice Triathlon and heading back home.
Now we'll be coming up onshore onto the Roule Plage in front of the Meridian Hotel.
If there is a swimming style that seems to apply to all the triathletes, it's a long, smooth stroke, a very even stroke.
Exactly. People may be looking for rapid turnover, but that's not what glides you through. It's a glide stroke that you need, and doing the S under the water, because you're not really pulling the water. That would be making too much effort. It has to be as economic as possible. Andrew McNaughton from Canada. Here's a man we've seen right up the front in this race before, except when it came down to the run portion. One of the top cyclists in the sport. He was a man who earlier this year in Chicago beat Molina, but he came 4th in a race in Chicago to Mike Pigg, the present USTS champion.
McNaughton swimming alongside Jan Wankling of Australia, who continues to lead amongst the women.
She does, but it looks like Mandy Dean of Germany, who's in 2nd place, just meters behind at this point.
Is the swim any tougher as they get closer to the shore? I'm thinking less depth of water.
Maybe, but I don't think it is. I think the adrenaline's rushing, and now they're starting to think in terms of getting it together to start pulling the clothing off. You can see Yves Cordier coming out of the water there. His time around 45 minutes. I certainly have to doubt the validity of the length of the swim course, but an excellent time, 45 minutes. That looked like Laurent Bernard in 2nd place. And that was Rob Barel just coming through in 4th place there, but they're so close together. We'll see now what happens in transition and who gets out onto the bike course in 1st place. Yves Cordier just at the top of the steps.
Boy, that's tough. Coming out of the water after a 4-kilometer swim, you've got to go up steps to get to the bicycle transition area.
Absolutely. And you can see he's got to run to the bike. They've got quite a way just to get to the machinery, but thousands of dollars worth of cycles and componentry in that transition area.
Now, Steve, what's the secret in going from the swim to the bike?
Just having everything set up perfectly in the transition area. As you can see, the man here, number 3, Rob Barel, look at the speed with which he gets that wetsuit off. grabs his bike, and he'll be underway. He's got his cleats already locked into his pedals. He'll probably start cycling without putting his feet into the shoes. There you go. And he'll be underway. He's the first man to go out, Barel from Holland. In fact, the Dutch are a very strong European nation when it comes to triathlons. They have two other men to watch for out on the field, and those will be Henry Kiens and Lucien Loyens.
So Cordier, who was first out of the water, is actually second into the bicycle portion of this competition.
Indeed.
Glenn Cook is third.
Yes, indeed. Great Britain's hopes resting on Glenn Cook. We saw him in Kelowna, fourth place, a great runner. He could do very well today.
Now back to the water, and the swimmers, of course, will be coming out of the water for some time now. We have seen the leaders go through the transition area, get onto the bikes and into that portion of the triathlon, but the swimmers are still coming out.
Indeed, and they'll be coming out probably for about another hour and a quarter.
Now we would expect to see the
Scott
first
Molina
woman, Scott Molina, just come out.
And behind Scott, you saw Kenny Glar, known as the Beast from the East. Erin Baker, what a lady. Ironman champion, fourth place right now, but she'll be making up time on the run and the bike. She is just phenomenal in all three disciplines. That was Scott Tinley who just went by us, a two-time Ironman champion. But coming up now is that lead lady, Jan Wanklin. Andrew McNaughton just went through. Here comes Jan Wanklin of Australia, wearing the colours of Australia on her wetsuit.
And watch how quickly she gets out of that wetsuit.
Yes, indeed. Wetsuits now specifically made for triathletes. You'll see the rope at the back there so they can pull them down quickly, not losing any time.
Boy, this is the part that gets me. They've got to run up those stairs to get to the bikes after that swim. I can't believe it.
I think the athletes would sure appreciate an elevator at that point. They have to be careful too. You notice as they go over to their own bikes, they've got to watch out for other triathletes coming through on their bikes and out onto the bike course. And you'll see underneath the wetsuits, most of them are already changed. There are no change facilities here when triathletes first got going. Some were out in the open, as you're seeing now, and some people actually changed just there and then, regardless of spectators. And then they had change tents, but now it's set up so that people have their clothing on underneath the wetsuits, and away they go. See the innovations in cycling, the handlebars there, Scott bars, they've been around now for a couple of years. You rarely see a triathlete without them. Mandy Dean from Germany in second place, also a time under 50 minutes. Karen Smyers in third place, her time 50 minutes and 16 seconds out of the swim. She has visited Canada on a couple of occasions. Erin Baker in fourth place, a very good swim, just over 50 minutes and 23 seconds. But there's no doubt in my mind she's the lady to watch today. Mandy Dean having a little trouble there. She's forgotten something, probably a sponsor's jersey. We'll see whether Erin can make up time already on Mandy as she goes out onto the bike.
So as the athletes make their way out onto the roads around Nice and the grueling bicycle race, we'll return with more on Sports Weekend in just a moment. Welcome back to the Nice International Triathlon. This beautiful city playing host to the toughest sporting endurance test in the world. Nice is certainly a modern town which hasn't forgotten its character, steadily developed since Roman times. And as life goes on in downtown Nice, the competition in the Nice International Triathlon continues. This is Erin Baker.
And it's no wonder she's ranked #1 in the world. Last season, the winner of the Daikyo World Cup in Australia, the Vancouver International Triathlon, and the Reebok World Championships in Kelowna, British Columbia, as well as the Ironman in Hawaii.
Steve, in the men's competition, Yves Cordier of France has regained the lead.
Yes, and we can expect him to actually stay within the top 3 because the swimming and biking are his 2 greatest disciplines. It's when it comes down to that third and final discipline, the run, that he tends to lose out.
Remember, this portion of the triathlon is 120 kilometers over some of the toughest terrain that a triathlete will ever encounter on the bike.
Indeed, and let's remember the French and their history around cycling. I believe The French say that cycling is there to develop the character of a person. And let's not forget the courses of the Tour de France, the Paris-Roubaix, and all the classics.
Erin Baker continues her steady climb through the pack amongst the women. This is the strongest portion of her triathlon, is it not? She is now in first place.
Well, she's also the fastest female runner when it comes to triathlons too, so I expect her to make inroads on the bike, to get a good lead and to hold it on the run. She's been training with Scott Molina in Boulder, Colorado. She is fit, as is Scott Molina now.
Yves Cordier of France, the leader among the men.
And there is a tremendous amount of pressure on that man. This course is going to be a true test of nerves, technique and strength. All sorts of climbs, hair-raising descents, sharp bends and switchbacks. Cordier looking around to see Rob Barel in second place, and there Scott Molina, a man who would dearly love to have a win today. And to the right of Molina you see Andrew McNaughton of Canada, a phenomenal cyclist, but he tends to lose out a little bit on the run.
We talked about pacing in the swimming portion of the competition. What about pacing in the bike ride?
All important, especially on this tough course. Throwing caution to the wind, that's what's going to open up all sorts of time. And Rob Barel is flying at this time. They don't call him the Flying Dutchman for nothing.
And that's the battle for first place. Yves Cordier of France in front, followed by Rob Barel. Now, this is a downhill section of this bike ride, and this is where they can pick up the speed.
And there goes Barel. He's going to make the pass. He looks across to see how Cordier is looking, and he's made the pass. Remember, they mustn't draft in this race. There are marshals out there on the motorbikes to watch for any drafting infractions. That means they can't sit on the wheel of the person in front of them. They must remain 2 bike lengths behind, and when they make a pass, they must pass 3 or 4 feet either side. But Barel opened up a gap already in no time at all.
And remember, this is not the Trans-Canada Highway.
Exactly, and Cordier is a very good class cyclist.
Magnificent scenery over this portion of the bike ride. Remember, it's 120 kilometers in distance. Scott Tinley of the United States.
Scott Tinley, a man who placed second here last year, one of the greatest, one of the big 4 in the sport of triathlon.
And Scott Tinley's wife is at the finish line.
Well, in the olden days, before I had Tori, I used to finagle my way on a press vehicle, and I'd go out and I'd try to watch the race. But now that I have her, it's kind of a long day to expect her to be out on the course. So I stay in the transition area and watch the beginning of the swim and the end of the bike and the start of the run, and take care of her needs.
No one has to take care of the needs of Erin Baker. She continues to go exceptionally well in the cycling portion of this Nice International Triathlon.
And Erin Baker can expect to place well overall amongst the men, as she always does in every race she enters. Mandy Dean doing extremely well in second place. We certainly expected her to be there in the swim, but not in the bike. That's where we thought she'd lose some ground. And Europe's Sarah Coop. That's where she'll be wanting to make up ground, but other people, unfortunately, are having to drop out. A tough course, gravel on the road, lots of accidents in the past. In fact, 2 years ago, Dave Scott was out of the race with a blown tyre as he went round a corner. But that man, he's got a long walk back to the village of Nice.
Very important to keep that bike in top shape, because if anything goes wrong during the cycling portion, you can be in big trouble. That's a good example of how tough this course is. Rob Barel, certainly a world-class athlete, and he's having difficulty breathing on this cycle portion.
As I'm sure Brad Kearns on the left and Scott Tinley on the right. Let's not forget the altitude these guys are climbing to as they pass through the towns and villages of Gatier, Carreau, Le Broc and Bouillon before heading back to Nice. And the Promenade des Anglais. Taking water there is Scott Molina, presently in 4th place. One of the things they'll all have to do is make sure they're well hydrated. He takes on some food as well. You'll notice at the end of his bars there he has a grip shift system. That's what he changes the gears with, as opposed to the conventional system. Anything to save time and precious seconds. Yves Cordier doing extremely well. He may have lost that first position, but he's hanging on. He wants to be right up there and please that French crowd.
The battle continues, Steve, between Molina and Canada's Andrew McNaughton.
It does, and I would be surprised to see McNaughton let Molina go at this point, because McNaughton knows his weakest point is his running, so he has to hang in there. And certainly his strength as a cyclist is renowned. But Erin Baker, look at this, making another pass, making a move to go ahead. Extending that distance between herself and Mandy Dean, who's still in second place.
Now, of course, Baker has no idea just how close Mandy Dean is, but she must be able to sense. She must have a built-in timer.
I think so, but I also believe Erin Baker doesn't care where other people are. She races her own race. She wants to do the best that she possibly can. Colleen Cannon, presently in third place, had some problems prior to the race. There was a mix-up with her bike. I don't think it was transported properly, so she may be on a borrowed bike. Mandy Dean in second place, doing extremely well. Looking good. I'm not sure how she is on the run. I don't believe she's competed in this event before. But Rob Barel now back just meters away from that transition area at the Promenade des Anglais. The crowd will be ecstatic to see this Dutchman coming in first overall at this point.
This is pretty well what we expected, because Rob Barel is such a strong cyclist. This is really his portion of the competition. This is Yves Cordier of France. Now, you can bet that when he hits this seaside promenade, he'll receive a strong round of applause. But right now, it is Rob Barel who is going to be first into the transition area. Remember, this is the completion of a 120-kilometer cycle race. He goes up the ramp and into the transition area, where he will get off the bike, put on his sneakers, and head out into a 30-kilometer run.
And his time for the cycle portion, 3 hours and 13 minutes. That is the fastest ever for this cycling course. And he's opened up a lead around 7 or 8 minutes over Yves Cordier, who should be coming through shortly. But behind Cordier, just about a minute behind him, is Scott Molina, now in third place. So there goes Rob Barel. You'll hear the screaming crowds there. They want to see a European win this one. Tremendous pressure on this man. Can he relax? He looks excited right now. He knows he's got a big lead. The people in the transition area have told him they've got good communication out there on the course. He wants to be able to hang on now. It all comes down to pace judgment, keeping hydrated, keeping relaxed, not putting extra pressure on himself.
That's an important point to point out. We should note that no European has won this race in its 7-year history. Mark Allen is a 5-time winner. Of course, he's from the United States. And Richard Wells of New Zealand won the event in 1987. And there is Erin Baker. There's no question that she is going to be the first woman into the transition area to go from the bike race to the run. Yves Cordier of France. Now, listen to the welcome he receives as he comes into the transition area.
Shouts of allez à la Yves. And his time on the bike portion, 3 hours and 20 minutes.
Now, it's very important in this transition area that you don't waste any time. You've got to do it as quickly as possible. Get off the bike, get into the sneakers. As Scott Molina now of the United States, remember, he has never won this race, and he would love to win it. As Cordier puts on the sneakers and gets set for the run. 20 miles, 32 kilometers. Let's see how quickly Scott Molina does it.
And Molina's time, 3 hours 19 minutes. So just 6 minutes behind Rob Barel and about a minute faster than Yves Cordier, who's already out onto the run. Now just look how relaxed Molina appears at this time. Sitting down, putting on his running shoes. He appears very cool and calm. The one thing that hasn't let him down over the past 18 months has been his running. He's known as a Terminator, and I tell you, he would give anything to have a really positive race today. He wants to get right back at the top of the international class.
So Scott Molina is on his way in the run portion.
And Andrew McNaughton just coming in. Andrew's time also 3:19, about 17 seconds faster than Molina's. But now I think he's going to be going backwards after the cycle.
At one time, Andrew McNaughton lived in Quebec. He now resides in California as Erin Baker continues her move into the transition area.
And it looks like her lead has been extended to between 15 and 18 minutes at this point, so a brilliant piece of riding from Erin. Here's Scott Chinley on the right, coming through. Tinley's time around 3:23 for the bike portion.
And what kind of a runner is Tinley?
Tinley is a marvelous runner. He's known for coming from the back. He's done sub-3-hour marathons on an Ironman course. And look at that. Molina moved to the right of Cordier, and he's taking him. Cordier looks across. He knows that Molina is the faster runner, so he'll be hoping that he can hold on to third position.
As you predicted, Scott Molina would do well in the run.
Yes, but Barel and Molina went head-to-head a couple of weeks ago in Geneva, Switzerland, over an Olympic distance course, and Barel came out the winner on that time.
And there is the leader, Rob Barel, currently in first place and looking very, very strong indeed.
Meanwhile, back on the Promenade des Anglais, a couple of kilometers away from that second transition point, Erin Baker truly dominating this race.
Now, what goes through Baker's mind as she approaches the transition area? Is she thinking of the things that she'll have to go through to start the run?
Indeed, I think that's exactly what's going on in her mind. She's checking herself out, looking inside, finding out, figuring out what she has left, what she has to do now. You can see already undoing the cleats, getting ready to make that transition. She doesn't want to lose any time at all.
And as we saw with Scott Molina, there is no need to panic here. You go through a carefully prepared ritual in getting off the bike, getting the sneakers on, and getting back onto the road and to start the run.
Exactly. As you know, Steve, the most professional athletes in any sport are those that appear the most relaxed.
Baker's time, by the way, for the bike portion of this triathlon, 3 hours and 32 minutes. A very good time indeed. We'll be back with more of the Nice International Triathlon on Sports Weekend in just a moment. Welcome back to the Nice International Triathlon. This is Scott Tinley, currently sitting in 4th place overall as they enter the road race portion of this triathlon.
And his number there, number 1, that's his seat, because last year he placed 2nd in this race to New Zealand's Richard Wells. Wells is not back in the field this year, but Tinley will be out there to make up ground on the run, as he usually does in a triathlon. He even has his own line of sports clothing, very popular with triathletes. Scott Molina, known as the Terminator, now in 2nd place, the USTS most winningest triathlete. He's been beaten, though, consistently over the last 18 months, and he certainly wants to get back to the top of the world rankings.
But the man that Scott Molina is trying to catch is right there. Rob Barel from Holland, currently sitting in 1st place and looking very, very good.
And as we said earlier, 4-time European short course champion. And this lady, look at her go, Erin Baker. Look at that determination. She's looking at the ground rather than the scenery around her. Very strong arm action and upper body.
Steve, at this point, she has an almost 20-minute lead over the next woman.
And I think she'll be out to extend that lead, because she doesn't just look at a woman's field, she wants to place well overall.
Another look at this beautiful resort area. The international playground of millionaires. And right now, Rob Barel is not too concerned about the international playground. He is just concerned about setting a pace for himself during the run.
And he seems to be a lot more relaxed now. I think he's probably talking to himself. He knows the sort of time between himself and Molina. Let's not forget the Masters athletes that are out there too. There's a great battle going on for the Masters between 3 Frenchmen, Robert Stroker, Danny Foucault, and Jean-Jacques D'Angreville. But number 3 coming up to the turn, 16 kilometers into the run, and his time quite exceptional, just over the 1 hour mark into the run. He'll be hoping that he can maintain that, because that will certainly be a winning run if he can. But he'll now, you saw he checked his watch. He wants to see the time between himself and the 2nd place man, Scott Molina, and there is Molina. Molina too will be checking that time. He knows what he's got to do to make it up. And he also knows that whereas Molina's running hasn't faltered when it comes to triathlons, it has for Barel, and in fact Barel over the last 5 years, any injuries have been running related injuries.
You hate to see this in any race, and certainly in a triathlon. This gentleman appears to have trouble with one of the pedals on his bike, and he can't get the help, Steve.
No, it's a little bit different, say, from the Tour de France or other cycling classics where you can get help, but unfortunately, that's the name of the game. Now look at the entourage that is around Molina. Of course, they can't go in front of him because they'll be accused of pacing him, but it's great to see the way the French have taken to this sport.
Sarah Koop, the second woman in the field right now, and she has her hands full because she is trying to catch Erin Baker. But at last count, Baker had something like a 21 or 22-minute lead. Jan Wanklin, who had a very strong swim but faltered a little in the bike portion of the race, has now really come on strong during the run.
Yes, indeed. Sarah Koop pulled up 9 minutes, in fact, over Jan Wanklin on the bike. Colleen Cannon, let's not forget, that lady has won the race 1984, and last year, in fact, she placed second in this race. So the thing, though, is that they realize, I'm sure, that it's out of order for them to pick up on this lady. She's so far in front, and they know what a dynamo of a runner she is, and she's now approaching that turn too. And as we look at the clock, we'll notice she is well on record pace. She, in fact, now is something like 30 minutes up on the second place lady.
Rob Barel is the race leader, trying to become the first European ever to win this race, and only the third runner to win, because Mark Allen won it 5 times, and then we had a New Zealander win in 1987. But this is Scott Molina taking water, and it's very, very important to stress that you have to take liquids during a race of this kind.
Yet when this race first got underway 7 years ago, there were not enough aid stations out there, and the athletes really suffered. There's Scott Tinley out there. He's moved ahead of Yves Cordier of France, but Yves Cordier looking quite relaxed. I believe he should be able to hold on to that position. You would have noticed that the lead men and women there were not stopping at the aid stations as some of these people are. They've been going for over 6 hours now, and some of these men are going, and ladies are going to really suffer out there. So it's a very wise thing for them to stop, recoup, get some hydration, take in some liquids, and obviously take food as well, because the race will be open for 8 to 9 hours officially. We talked about the Masters, and this is one of the oldest men in the field today. Look at him go. He's looking very relaxed, very calm, probably really having a good time out there, and I'm sure he's enjoying the support of the thousands of spectators, as is this man, number 3, Rob Barel, our present leader, slowing down a little. He knows he's just got a few kilometers to go, but he'll be very much aware of what's happening behind him. I'm sure he'll be asking as he goes along how far Molina is behind.
And at this point, it looks as if one of the big concerns for Rob Barel is just trying to stay cool.
Yes, indeed. And he'll be thinking about last year, too. Last year, he placed 6th in this race, and his run split was a 2:13. He knows he's got to go faster than that today to stay ahead of this man, who looks like he could be onto a sub-2-hour clocking for the 32K.
Is it possible in a race like this that Molina could have any sort of a finishing kick?
I think it is, especially if he gets him within his sights. But it's coming down now to the wire, and I believe that Barel's got it. Look, you can see he's raising his arms. He's taking his time. He's looking around. He's really enjoying coming up to the finish. Remember, he's wanted this win for a long, long time. And here he is, the final few meters. He's been told how far Molina is behind. He knows Molina has no chance now of catching him. Look at that. It's wonderful to see a European for the very first time taking this, the premier triathlon event in Europe.
What a magnificent moment for Holland's Rob Barel, about to become the first European to win the Nice International Triathlon. He had an excellent swim, a superb bike race, and now tops it off with a great run. And there you see his time, 6 hours, 5 minutes, and 6 seconds for the champion Rob Barel of Holland.
And that represents a split of 2:06. But here is Molina. Look at that. That was the distance between them. Very little in it. But Molina will be delighted with his second place finish. And it shows the caliber of these athletes. You still see there are plenty of cyclists coming in yet to go out onto the run. But Molina split there under 2 hours, 1:59.32. There's our champion, Rob Barel from Holland.
Hands raised in triumph, and oh my, what he must be feeling at this stage after having just won. And now Erin Baker, who continues to run exceptionally well, and she has that big lead amongst the women.
A big lead indeed. It is now around 40 minutes, and she has placed 11th overall. This is the lady who is presently in third place. Jan Wanklin of Australia had a very good swim, lost some time to Sarah Coop of Great Britain, who's just ahead of her at this point. Scott Tinley in third place. He knows he's captured third. He'll be happy with that because the times are really very good. There was just 36 seconds in it between Barel and Molina, and here comes Tinley a further 7 minutes back with a time around 6 hours and 12 minutes.
I know that Scott will be pleased with that time, but I know how much he wanted to win it. This is one race he has never won, and I know how keen he was this year, and he thought he could. 6 hours, 12 minutes, and 54 seconds for Scott Tinley. And now here comes the Frenchman Yves Cordier. 6 hours, 14 minutes, and 2 seconds.
And Cordier split for the run, 2 hours and 8 minutes.
Oh, you know, I caught you at the top, just the top of the hill. When I caught you? Going into Requestra. No. Before the descent. Before the descent. Because, yeah, Tinley was 10 seconds behind, and I looked back and I saw you. And then we went down to Requestra. You put 2 minutes down to Requestra, and then another minute to Gillette.
I had a magnificent season this year. I had 17 victories already this year, but this one is the best one of my whole career since 1982. I'm really psyched up and happy, and standing here makes me feel great. Don't ask me to run, that will be very hard, but usually comes the next day where you start, feeling a little headache and very lazy. But I think I've deserved that.
I think he has too. Rob Barel, the winner of the men's race, and there's no question that Erin Baker is going to win the women's portion.
No doubt whatsoever, and her time on the run, incredible. It looks like she's going to get a sub 2 hour, 5 minute clocking, and if that is true, it'll be the 5th fastest of the finishers so far. A brilliant performance, a stunning athlete, and just amazes the world what she is capable of doing. This is a repeat victory. 1985 she was a winner here. 1986 she actually crossed the line first, but was disqualified later on because of getting some unofficial assistance, but here she is again, coming back and taking all the glory. A brilliant performance, the money, the prestige. 6:27.06 for Erin Baker, a new course record.
And the amazing thing, Steve, is that puts her in 11th place overall.
Absolutely. Nothing short of magnificent. What a performance from this lady from New Zealand.
And she doesn't even look tired.
She certainly doesn't. And you can see there are plenty of cyclists still coming in. They've got to get off their bikes and still go out there and have 20 miles of running ahead of them.
She gets the medal for first place in the women's competition. Has time to turn around, smile, and salute the crowd. We salute you, Erin Baker. Just a tremendous performance. And now the mandatory check after the race from the paramedics.
One of the things they're also instituting here in France for the first time is drug testing. Obviously, with the steroid issue that's been going around for a few years in athletics, the sport of triathlon wants to make sure it's a clean sport.
Erin Baker of New Zealand, the first woman to cross the line in the Nice International Triathlon, getting a well-deserved rub down.
Rob had a great race.
How much did Rob win by?
I think just a minute.
Oh, really? Scott was catching him.
Was this a day when everything came together at the same time, did you feel?
Yeah, it has been, though, for over the last 2 or 3 weeks, so that everything's been going right. But the only thing that I did extra well today, I swam well, which I haven't been doing so well in the last few races. And so that got me off to a good start. And then I really like hilly bike courses. It really suits me to be in the hills. And I suppose my run was really good as well, which was a lot faster than I've ever run here before. So I must be in form.
Erin Baker has won the women's competition, but Sarah Coop, she's not running on the road, Steve. She is actually running on the promenade. She does not look good at all.
No, she doesn't, and I think actually she may be a little disoriented. I saw her earlier there, she was having some trouble at the aid station. She slowed right down I think she's somewhat dehydrated. She went out at a very fast pace. I think she realized she couldn't catch Erin Baker. There was no chance of that, but she certainly wanted to come home in second place ahead of this lady who's making up all sorts of ground. And you see, she pointed out to ask, is that Sarah Cooper ahead of me? She was told it was, and you could see Sarah Cooper slowed right down. She's walking past the aid station. Now she's thinking of surviving, holding on. That's all that matters to her now.
An unfortunate moment for Sarah Coop, who is obviously very, very tired, just more interested in taking on water and cooling off. Wankling has moved from third to second now, so Jan Wankling of Australia looks as if she will take second place behind Erin Baker. A valiant effort from Sarah Coop as she tries to finish, and you can see that she is really struggling in the latter stages of the run.
And there's no doubt about it, the legs have taken a tremendous toll after the hills on the cycling course and this 20-mile run course. But Jan Wankling, a delighted triathlete, coming into second place. Overall time going to be around 7 hours, 7 minutes. Her running time about 2 hours and 19 minutes, so 15 minutes slower than the time set by Erin Baker for the run portion.
So second place goes to Jan Wankling of Australia, who had a great swim. She suffered a bit in the bike ride, but she certainly put it all together in the run. And now Sarah Coop, you've got to wonder if she can indeed finish. She is really struggling. Look, she can't get up the ramp. She can't be touched. She has got to cross the finish line by herself. Can she do it? She's done it. She has finished. A tremendous effort from Sarah Coop. Third place, 7 hours, 9 minutes, and 17 seconds. And now she's being administered to by the paramedics, and they're giving her oxygen.
And it shows the trouble she was in the last kilometre or so there, because Jan Wankling opened up a 2-minute gap on her. But what a great race we've seen today.
And there you see the final standings in the men's competition. Rob Barel, the first European to win the Nice International Triathlon. Erin Baker of New Zealand, an easy winner in the women's portion. Then it was Jan Wankling, followed by Sarah Coop. But winning isn't what this race is all about, Steve King.
No, it isn't. It's challenging yourself, and that man certainly had a challenge this day. That's Herb Niquet from France. Last year, he placed third in this event. This year, he just about got in the top 100. That says a lot about the ups and downs of this sport. Sometimes you're on, sometimes you're not.
What a great way to cool off after the race. And, of course, you could always sit by one of the kilometer markers and maybe hope for a lift home with somebody in a car. You know, officially, this race ends at 5:30 in the evening. And that's 8.5 hours after it all began. In theory, anyone still out on the course is disqualified. But while Nice reverts to its normal way of life and the nighttime draws in, they continue to register the late finishers. And finishing is all important in the Nice International Triathlon.
And nearly 4.5 hours after Rob Barel finishes, in comes the final finisher for the Nice International Triathlon.
Michel Dac of France. 4 hours after Erin Baker.
And the Dutch, no doubt ecstatic about Rob Barel's win, but they've proven themselves to be the dominant nation with 3 men in the top 10.
From the Nice International Triathlon, for Steve King, I'm Steve Armitage. Bonsoir.